Welcome to Wellness Rebranded, the podcast for women ready to redesign their relationship with food, fitness, and feelings.
We are a registered dietitian, a personal trainer, and a mental health therapist. 3 experts, 1 mission.
To help you break free from diet culture, hustle culture, and emotional burnout, let's redefine what wellness really means on your terms.
Jukester. Fun, fast, fitness. Jukester's unpredictable motion trains you to see, think, and react faster than your competition. Jukester is a powerful coordination tool. It can be added to any exercise. Its patented movement strengthens the link between your body and brain. Jukester by Health and Fitness Technologies. Jukester. It's about to get real. Buy yours at jukester.com.
One thing that we love about this podcast is that it's not only a podcast, it's a movement. The movement of pursuing wellness among us women. And Tara, Elizabeth, and I have talked that we also want to start bringing to you stories from real women that are going through their own journey with wellness. And for that reason, we have a guest today. I met this woman through the Emotional Fitness Studio. She came to one of the events. And she started chatting, we connected. And then I found out she has a story like the rest of us. Liana Morris is here with us today, and she's here to share her story. She calls it her awakening story. And not only she's sharing her story, but what helped her get to the place where she's at right now, and hopefully share some wisdom with us about the things that we can, the many options of things out there that we can do or try to support ourselves, to hold ourselves through this journey again called wellness. Liana, thank you so much for saying yes to this invitation. And it's a pleasure to have you. Tell our listeners a little bit about you as a woman and your story.
Well, thank you so much again for having me. Doing things like this is like my literal dream, to be able to share this amazing story that's been unfolding for me my entire life, but really can hone it down into 2020 and beyond. So a little bit about me. My favorite identity that I connect with is being a mom. I have been really struggling with like how I wanted to introduce myself today, and I wanted to start with the fact that I really love being a mom. I have a 13-year-old son who started 8th grade today. I also love being a wife, and I have a really lovely husband who I've been with. We will be married 22 years next May.
Ooh, congrats.
And so we've literally grown up together. And I also have, a mom and a sister and a dad and all the things and lots of friends. And I also have a corporate job that I work, but I've decided over these last several years that I stopped leading with that because it doesn't really define who I am or what I do. And so I wanted to lead with mom and artist. So I put up some of my artwork behind me today because when my therapist called me an artist, that was one of the most impactful periods of this growth process, mostly because I was like, what are you even talking about? I don't even know how that word relates to anything that I've ever done.
Now, hold on a second. Now I'm listening to you, Liana, and I'm thinking, how do I identify myself? And I'm like, definitely not a mom. I mean, I love being a mom, but it's not how I feel. It's like, Tara, how do you if you can choose just a couple of words to identify yourself, what do you use? I'm thinking here oh my God, therapist will be the first one. And that's not right. I don't know.
Yeah, identifying who I am and what I do is a hard thing for me too.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about this a lot, you and me, Maria, where personal trainer just doesn't quite cover what I do. But I'm so much more than just any one thing. I actually saw a quote today that said, don't get so busy being a mom that you forget that you're a woman in your 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever, also living your life for the first time too.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, holy smokes, that's hard hitting,
Yeah, I love that, Liana, because I've thought about it, but I love that you have come to identify those words that apply to you. Because you're right, usually is behind the corporate position, or when we interact with people is who are you?
What do you do for a living?
Exactly.
I hate that question.
And now that I think about it, yes, if I have to choose from all the stuff, now I know actually I would choose the Venezuelan who loves to dance and want to have fun. That I feel more comfortable with that. And then after that comes the mom, the daughter, the therapist, the podcast host, whatever. But yeah, Venezuelan, for example, is one thing that cannot stay away from me because it's part of who I am. So anyway,
Well,
sorry
and I
for the
think that that's so
interruption.
important because when we start to figure out what our value aligned to our identity is, then everything, like
Mhm.
I'm still also a corporate worker. I'm still also a daughter. I'm still also these other things. But if I think about me first and my identity, I think that's really the biggest part of awakening and coming into yourself. Is like I remember sitting at a yoga retreat. It was shortly after my sister had like started telling me like I remember her introducing me at this retreat and she goes, she just became aware. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. I was so resentful and angry that like I didn't know everything yet, you know? And we're sitting at this retreat and we're introducing ourselves like we are now. And I just started crying. I said, I don't even know who I am anymore. And the wind comes rushing in behind me. And the woman that was running the retreat goes, did you feel the wind come in? I was like, I did. And it was basically that. It was, 5 years of just figuring out like how do I untangle myself from these identities that I have collected
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
that have brought potentially value, but mostly just weight
Yeah.
to me and separating
Yeah.
myself, my real self from those by questioning
Mm.
how much does this particular identity align with who I want to be and where I want to be in my future. Like,
Mhm.
we're not staying in the same place. It's not, this life is not static. Even in our 40s and 50s and 60s and whatever, it's constantly evolving and changing. There's always going to be some sort of pitfall, which is how all of this awakening started for me in the first place was, injury and illness. And and life is going to just continue to happen. So who do I want to show up to life as?
Yeah.
Do I want to show up as corporate Leanna? That's probably not going to help me too much in my corporate life, in my work life, or I mean in my life. But if I show up as Leanna all the time, that does help my corporate life, and that does help my
Mhm.
corporation that I work for, and everybody else. It also seriously helps me as a mom when I decide what energy I'm going to emit to this, how do I bring love to this, all these other things that I've started to embody. When I embody that identity and I bring that identity into the other identities, the other places that I insert myself into, that's when I feel the most alive and the most at home. And then I'm at home everywhere. And then that expression, that authenticity comes through because there's no question about my my intrinsic value, my intrinsic
Mhm.
words are failing me. But yeah,
I love that, and it makes perfect sense.
It
So,
definitely like poses some things to think about.
mm, mm,
Like I've been sitting here thinking and I'm like, gosh, I don't know who I am,
mhm,
you
I don't
know?
think I don't think very many of us do. Our culture has designed it that way. They want us to be distracted and busy and hustle culture and producing and running from this thing to that thing to that thing to how many apps do I have open on my phone and how many tabs can I keep on my computer. They want us in that space. Our society wants us in that space because we're a lot easier to control when we don't know who we are, when we're identifying
Yeah.
with whatever makes the society the most effective. I don't know. I don't know
yeah,
how to
We
word all
say
that,
that
but
about diet culture a lot is
oh
like,
yeah.
the average American woman spends 17 years of her life dieting and will spend over $300,000 throughout the course of her life on like health, diet, and beauty treatments. And we're so concerned with what our body looks like, which is arguably the least interesting thing about us.
100%. And also
That
like one of the least things that we can control, you know?
correct.
Yeah.
And so we can't focus on the more important stuff. We're distracted by it.
Yes. And that's it. Like that's the whole game is like being able to recognize a distraction as a distraction and deciding again is a lot easier once you have that identity in place. And again, the identity changes and fluctuates and moves and whatever, but to say does this distraction align with what with my intention of now, my intention of today, of this week, of, the values that I have decided, that I've, you know, I do exercises every once in a while where I kind of do like a values exercise to say like, what are my main values right now? Like where do I want to spend my time and energy? Where do I want to look for growth and expansion? And again, awareness is the first step, and then it's discipline and discernment to understand like what is me and what is a condition, a conditioned response, a programmed response. I call them ruts, right? Like we get stuck in these ruts and we just start running these automatic programs. And until somebody snaps you out of it, you don't even notice you're running the automatic program.
So
Please.
a quick pause for women listening. So if you are one of those women who don't know who you are, you're not alone. And if you're one of those women like me, because in my case I feel that I know who I am, but I am not letting her come out completely. So whether you don't know who you are or maybe you do, but this person that you are is hiding behind all these responsibilities that we have or behind self-doubts or whatever that is, please know you're not alone. And this is one of the many reasons why we have this podcast. So Liana, you have a story. You call it the awakening story. What happened? What's your story?
So I'm gonna start crying at my kitchen island in my old house in 2020. I, like many of us, was working a corporate job in an office, commuting, coming home, kids at school, husbands at work. Everybody comes home for a couple hours, we eat dinner, we go to bed, starts all over again. And all of that, of course, came to a crashing halt. And so when I came home from COVID, I was doing the same job that I'm doing now. And the only place that I could fit all of my monitors was my kitchen island. And so I would spend, at the time, I was spending probably 12 to 14 hours a day working because things were going nuts in my industry and because I wasn't in a place where I could be like, you know what, I don't need to spend 14 hours doing this today, but whatever. We were where we were. There were days I didn't eat lunch. Like I'm literally sitting this far from the refrigerator and like I wouldn't eat lunch. My husband come into the kitchen at 5 o'clock and go, "What's for dinner?" I'm like, if you think I'm cooking, you're out of your mind. I'm gonna go sit in my car and scream for an hour because I don't get my commute anymore. Goodbye. Like So one day my husband and son went for a walk and it was late. Like there should have been no reason that I didn't go on this walk, but I was like, I have to do the work. I have to do the thing. And we had a brand new program that got released to us right before we got sent home. So we were learning a new program from on our own in the midst of COVID, which is its own thing. And so my husband and my son are on this walk. I had been working on a project, quote, for 8 hours. And all of a sudden everything was gone. Like nothing was there. And it's like 6:30 at night and I'm sitting at my kitchen island and I just start crying. Like
Oh my gosh.
heaving sobs, like just and all of a sudden my son, who was 7 at the time, comes running in the house, goes, "Mommy's finally laughing." And he runs into the house and I am like tears, bright red face, like cry. I couldn't even like figure out like what even to like do next. And he was like, "Oh, Mommy, I'm so sorry. What happened? Like,
Mhm.
what's going on?" And anyway, so again, like to Maria's point, like when you don't know, we've all we've all been in the places where some people are. And not too long after that, I got a therapist, which was the first step in my
Mhm.
process. My therapist was amazing, is amazing. And that really catapulted everything else. So shortly after that, I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease that my sister has. And that was really the only reason they even had caught it in the first place. And that's a long story I don't need to go into. But basically, what that ended up turning into was a total thyroidectomy in September of 2021.
Mhm.
And about a week after I had my thyroid removed, I got on a phone call with my mother and we got into an argument and I started yelling. And the next morning I woke up, my throat was sore. And in the middle of a meeting with luckily with the salesman I had been working with for about 20 years in an office next to him, luckily he was the one I lost my voice on the phone call with because we're on video, but we're not on video. We're just sharing screens. And I lost my voice mid-sentence. And so I turned on my camera for the first time in like 4 years. Hey, I can't talk anymore. I can finish this meeting, but it is going to be with me typing and looking at you on the camera and whatever. That meeting would normally would have been about an hour. It took us 4 because I had to keep stopping what I was doing to write the words I wanted to say. That led to about 3 months of me not having a voice. I was writing letters to my son, like, how was your day at school? And I am a person that talks to everything. I talk to my plants. I talk to myself quite often. I talk to everything, like all the time. I have like a constant narrative of words. And my voicemail was my husband saying, like, Leanne, I can't call you back. Leave her a voicemail and she'll text you or email you. And what ended up
Wow.
happening with that, luckily I'd been with my company for a long time. And so they ended up giving me time, as I knew I couldn't just take off more like weeks, like I'd just taken off time for my surgery. And so my boss at the time was so great. And he was like, you were going to stop working at 2. And once every week or so, we'll evaluate if if you're ready to start coming back more full time. But at 2 o'clock, I don't want to see you on the computer. I want you off. Go to your doctor's appointments. I had to get a speech therapist. Like it was a whole.
Yeah.
And so that to me was the most abrupt part of all of this, but it really over the years has brought me back into like the value of my voice.
Yeah.
And like I said when we started, like this is
Literally.
literally what I want to do with my life is share my story with other people who are where I was when I was crying at that island 5 years ago and say it doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah.
You can be in almost the exact same place that you were and feel different about it. Like there is a way out. I remember when talking to my therapist one day and she's like, well, now that you have gotten to this place, you're at the place where you think everybody can heal. And I was like, I know everybody can heal. Like I know I know with my being that it is possible. Is it easy? No. Is it fun? Most of the time. Sometimes, especially once you start to like see what the universe has been sending you in the way that the universe is trying to communicate to you and not in the like, why is this happening to me sort of place. And again, so losing my voice it could have been like, why is this happening to me? And there was a lot of that. And then it was learning how to get my voice back. And even my sister sends me like old voicemails from even after I got my voice back. And she's like, you don't even sound, your voice is different. Everything about like because I'm now embodying this different version of myself. I'm not embodying the person crying at the kitchen island anymore. I'm so much more free than that person was.
Wow, Liana.
That is a story.
That's just the beginning. We haven't even gotten to the next phase of the next breakdown. But again, like that's what it is. Like it's things are going to happen. Like again, we're not going to stop the life. We're not going to stop I don't even want to use that word. We're not going to stop the things that are coming. It's how we want to bring ourselves into them, right? So what energy do I want to emit while doing this is one of my favorite things to think about, especially when I'm doing something challenging. How can I bring love to this is a big, big, big one for me. And then this is one of my favorites from one of my good friends, Dr. J, who, when she was going through a challenging time, one time she had somebody say to her, why are you acting like this is the first time? And that one hits me every time I think about it. Because it's like, even if it's like a new instance, it's not like the first time that we've been sad or
Right.
angry or frustrated or beat
Fa-
or,
Facing a
whatever it is.
struggle.
Like, it's not
Mhm.
the first time that that's happened to us.
Mhm.
So most of what this journey has been trust. How do I trust myself to, like, I've gotten this far. I've figured out new things every single day all by myself this far. And I think a lot of us forget about, like, we spend so much time paying attention to everybody else and our kids and our husbands and our work and our this and our that. We don't think about, like, we have done this stuff. Like, we have lived this life.
Yeah.
Like, we're doing it. And
Mhm.
the more I don't even want to say like let things slip because that's not necessarily what I do, but like for one more example is back in those days when I would work before I came home from COVID, I would work all day, I would get my kid to bed, and then I would sit on my couch and I would read almost every single email that I would get, which was like all the junk, all the garbage. I would have like 30 tabs open. I would wake up every morning around 3 or 4 o'clock on my couch with my computer still open with all the tabs. I didn't read any of the email and I never got through anything because I was trying to do everything. And you can't get through anything when you're trying to do everything. And so I remember when I first decided I was only going to check my emails like once a month. I was like, once a month, I'll get in, I'll pay all my bills, I'll delete all the emails that are garbage, and like that'll be enough. And I saw something that said your adult body knows how to adult. Your bills are going to get paid. Your food is going to get on the table. Like the things that you feel like you have to like do all the time, they're going to get done. They might not get done the same way that they used to get done,
Right.
but they will get done and it will be okay. And if something happens, it's a lesson. You figure like, oh, that I let that slip. I need to not let that slip again. And you figure it out.
Raising kids isn't for the faint of heart, and sometimes you need straight talk from people who get it. I'm Dr. Melissa Wellner, a child adolescent psychiatrist and mom of 3.
And I'm Samantha Straub, licensed clinical counselor, educator, parenting coach, and mom of 2. Together, we host Parenting Shrink Wrapped, the podcast where we tackle the joys, the meltdowns, and the downright absurdities of raising children and teens. You'll get practical strategies that actually work, plus some laughs and solidarity along the way.
So, if you've ever thought, I love my kid, but wow, this is hard, come join us on Parenting Shrink Wrapped. Find us wherever you listen to your podcast or on YouTube. Now back to our friends at Wellness Rebranded.
So listening to you, it's different emotions come to me, right? First of all, thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
One of your stories, because we, like you said, we all have so many stories. One of your stories. One is, I feel like, oh my goodness, Liana, I'm so sorry you went through that, because I can only imagine in that moment of losing your voice, all what it entails. I mean, all the abrupt changes that can bring to somebody's life, losing your voice on every single aspect of your life. And then you kept talking, and I don't know, let me know if this lands with you or not. You describing, how you're answering emails at night and all that. And then I'm thinking, wow, life gave you a forced pause. In a way, it's like the universe taking care of you and saying, okay, girl, you don't want to pause on your own. I'm not saying that anybody deserves losing their voice. Please, I hope this is coming exactly from where it's coming, but it's like, so many times I've thought in my life that the times that I've had to pause by force, and then as the time goes by, I'm like, all right, universe, God, whoever people think this is sent from, I needed this pause. So because I know you now, and I know you went through that, and I know you're doing a lot of things that you want to do, and your voice is back, and I probably want to bet is not only back, but it came back stronger and more aligned with who you are and where you want to be, and what we started talking at the beginning of this podcast or this episode. So my question next is, so I have a picture of what you went through, and I can only imagine the struggle, right? What were the main things that helped you going from that moment or from that experience to becoming the woman that you are now, identifying as a mom and a wife, and pursuing the dreams that you probably had for a while, but you were too busy to see? What were the main things that we can share with our audience of what helped you?
So thank you for asking, because I knew I was going to forget to go through all those things. So the number one thing was yoga, because once I started getting off at 2, I was like, well, there's a 6:30 yoga class that I can get to, which I, to be fair, probably could have figured out a way to get to it before that. But again, hustle culture, right? I was like, well, I'd have to stop working by then, whatever. Anyway, yoga was number one because it gave me space in my schedule, because now like yoga is non-negotiable, except for tonight, because I'm going to a concert tonight. My favorite band is playing in Baltimore for the first time. So, so yoga became non-negotiable. So not only did that give me space in my body, but it gave me space in my schedule for me that was just for me. It was non-negotiable. Even when I ran my son's fifth grade graduation for the PTA, I did not work on Tuesdays. I did not have events on Tuesdays. I did not check emails on Tuesdays. I did not respond to anybody on Tuesdays about PTA stuff. Tuesday was my day. It was it. But also, my sister is a psychedelic therapist, and she had sent me a bunch of meditations. And so, one of the ways I started, because when I was working with a speech therapist, she was like, "We want you to use your voice. You just need to, you know, use it less." And so, I would go to yoga early, and I would sit in the nice, quiet, closed room, and I would record the meditations that my sister had sent me. And that only not only helped with the meditations, but it helped me hear the progress that I was making in my voice as it was getting stronger. And then mantras have been huge for me because I did have that never-ending loop in my head. And honestly, I still have the never-ending loop in my head. It's just a lot easier to quiet it these days because I have resources. I have mantras that I can be like, that's not true. And I also have renamed the voice in my head. And so I just tell her to shut up now, when she's saying things that I know are not me, that are whatever, not helpful. Like, stop talking. I don't need to listen to you. But the mantras and the affirmations have been huge. I'll tell you another story that's so funny. When I first started, my therapist had sent me the first list. They were root chakra affirmations. And the first one is I am centered and balanced. And I remember standing on my back deck and reading through them. And the last two, I looked at it, like I'd read all of them as soon as I had read them out loud. And I got to the last two and I literally like looked at the phone and then looked at the sky and was like, you're kidding. Like I laughed. I was like, this is ridiculous. And I was like, I am a channel for peace and serenity. I choose peace and calm. And I couldn't even, it was felt so foreign in my mouth, in my body. I was like, that doesn't even sound like anything like me. And I read them twice. I read all the other ones once. I read that one twice, those two twice. And I read those mantras every single day. It was a list of like, I'm going to say 15 to 20 short word, short sentences like that. And I would stand out on my deck every day and I'd read all of them. And I remember when I started to read those last two and they didn't sound foreign. And then whenever I would get into that space of like hyperactivity, hypervigilance, victimhood, all of the things that I used to carry, I am a channel for peace and serenity. I choose peace and calm. I get to choose. I get to choose what I bring into this situation, what I bring into this whatever space that I'm in. I am a channel for peace and serenity. I choose peace and calm. And I just kept coming back to that and back to that. One other thing that I do not want to forget that has helped me a ton was the book Love is Letting Go of Fear by Gerald Jampolsky. I might have gotten his last name wrong. It was written the year that I was born. It's a very short book, but at the end, there are 12 lessons. And the way that he puts in the book to do the lessons is to write them down on cards and do one every day until they become so much a part of you that you don't need to refer to the cards anymore. And I did them every day for about 9 months. And like I would go to the office and my friend would be like, what's the lesson today? And it was always the right lesson. There were definitely days where the next morning I would wake up and I would go to switch the card and I'd be like, oh, I did not nail that one. We're going to do that one again. We're doing that lesson again today. That was huge, huge, huge for me.
So, I mean, no surprise there, Tara. Yoga, I'm thinking, the movement of your body. We've talked about how that can be an important healing tool.
Yes, movement opens like so many pathways in the body. You
That's
know, I was talking to a client this morning and she said, "Oh, I hope I don't cry in the middle of my session today." And I was like, "Girl, if you do, like, I have at least one person a week cry in the middle of their session, not because they're like dying from the workout, but just like moving your body brings up stuff.
yeah,
And it's
absolutely.
like not a problem for me. I'll give you a hug or a bottle of water or just stand there quietly with you while we work through it. Like, and it doesn't phase me at all. And for the record, she did not cry this morning. But,
Well, it's
like that's just like the body brings up so many emotions that we store in there, you
absolutely.
know. And while you were talking, I was thinking about, your body will force you to take a break if you don't do it yourself. I was thinking back to when I was in high school. I would get sick like every February, and it was just like the flu or whatever was going around. But like, I figured out that I would go so hard with like school and honors classes and soccer season. And I even did like theater sometimes during like the winter. That's hard for my like introverted self to believe now, but I totally used to be like a theater nerd. And then by the time I got to like February, it was like, oh, girl, you need a break. And my body would like force me to take 2 or 3 days off, you know?
Wait,
If
you
only
said you're
like
introverted right now?
I am introverted.
Where?
I know I have to work really hard to like not be introverted in my day to day, but I totally am an introvert.
Okay, that's new information for me.
Well, it has to do with like where your energy kind of comes from or something, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that more
Yes. Like
so
I
like
thrive on having like the home alone, to
mm,
myself.
sure.
But of course my job, yesterday I trained like 20 clients.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I got home
Yeah.
from work and I was just like, oh, my husband wanted to talk to me and I was like, babe, I need 10 minutes to just shut up and
No
Okay,
just
people.
yeah.
lay here, you
No more
know?
people.
And he's an extrovert, so he was like, okay, fine, but I really want to talk to you about stuff.
Yeah, that codependency is like is a whole it's a whole other thing. Some of it too, because I'm like, some days I'm like, I need to be, and I don't need to be doing that. That's just the old program talking.
Well, and it's important to mention that after you have 20 clients and you're having those conversations where you're supporting and holding space for other people, it is exhausting. Let's just call it as it is. So whether introverted or not, yeah, your body absorbs all that, right? All of
Hmm.
that your body absorbs. And that's going back to Liana's part of, answering those emails and being in that hustle. The body absorbs the alertness, the constant alertness of our nervous system. It absorbs the urgency that we give to everything that has to do with work, right? Like we all work in the cure for cancer, sounds like. It's like we all work in the place that is holding for nuclear bombs not to come out by mistake. And no, we don't, okay?
Right, right.
Not all jobs do
Nope,
that, but we treat them and leave them like that. Like if I don't answer
Yeah.
this email, the whole world is going to explode. And that sense of urgency and it's exhausting. Our nervous system and our brains were not designed for this shit. It was not, period. And that's why one of the fears that I have is that we're going to start falling like domino effect, right? Like one after the other, because our bodies are going to be like, okay, I did what I could with you, human. This is it. Like, come on, right?
nope.
Maria, to your point, when I was in high school and college, I worked as a waitress at Outback Steakhouse. And, that was like in Outback's heyday where we might have a wait of like 4 hours, people sitting there for 4 hours waiting for Outback's like mid-level food, you know. But it
Outback,
was
do you
one of
want to be one of our sponsors for the show? There you go. Come on.
So I was running around, and the waitresses there, you only get like 3 or 4 tables. It's not like you're waiting like half the restaurant. You only have 3 tables to take care of. And one day I was running around like a crazy person, like, I need this bloomin' onion, and I'm like yelling at people in the kitchen
Mhm.
and holding waters and spilling sodas all over myself and stuff. And one of my coworkers was like, hey, I see you're in the weeds right now. And I was like, yeah, thanks. Like, help or get out of the way, and he was like, hey, the worst thing that happens right now is they wait an extra 2 minutes for their food.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, think about that for a second. I was like, dang, okay. Okay, sir,
Yes.
like I see you. And it like really changed the way I waited on my tables. Like, it's not that I didn't care anymore, but like, if you getting your bloomin' onion 2 minutes later than you
Yes.
thought you were gonna get it is the worst thing that happened in your day, like you're doing okay.
Yes.
And
Girl,
and that's the thing,
yes.
like we have to disconnect from that stuff, like that doesn't have anything to do with us. Like, and because even if someone was mad at you about the blooming onion being 2 minutes, like that doesn't have anything to do with you. It
Right.
doesn't have anything to do with it has to do with whatever happened in their day that they're having
Yeah.
to like take it out on you or whatever. And something you said that reminds me of something I made very clear with my son last night. I don't use that phrase anymore. I only now say what is the best that can happen because we don't talk
Yeah.
about the other stuff anymore. Because there is none of that. Because even to Maria's point, like losing my voice, that could have been, I mean, it was traumatic. Not that
Yeah.
it wasn't, and not that it wasn't hard to get through, but it didn't end me. It wasn't, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? I get to decide how I'm going to interact with that experience of losing my voice.
Yeah.
And when I have more tools and resources, which I have now than I versus what I had then, I can interact with that differently and see it from a different perspective. Clearly, it's several years away, but we can only do what we know. We would only do what we know because awareness is key. But like, so when come at things as what's the best that can happen, everything shifts,
Yeah.
and there's no like none of that. All that what if stuff goes away.
So, Liana,
Yeah.
before we end, I have a question I'm excited about. And so I have two questions. So
Okay.
I'll tell you the second one first. So the second one is, if any of our listeners, any of the women out there listening to this episode is struggling with something in their lives right now that is being traumatic and it's being hard, what words can you offer them? And the first question is, if you this well, you didn't describe it, but I can imagine the Liana before losing her voice and the Liana now. What is different, and what are things that you're grateful from the Liana right now that maybe wouldn't have come if you didn't go through what you went through? So
Mm.
tell us about this Liana now, and if all this was worth it. Not that anybody needs to go through that, but if you learned something from this experience, what of that makes the Liana now? And any words of encouragement for any women out there going through a very hard time.
So one of those mantras from that first list of root chakra mantras that I did was I trust in the process of life with all its peaks and valleys. And I would say that coupled with whatever version of this too shall pass helps me on my worst days. I just recently had to Tara's point, take out a couple days off of work because I was having some medical things and whatever stuff going on. And and there were some tough days in there. There were some days where I didn't feel like, to your point, Maria, this version of Leanna. I felt like the old version of Leanna. And again, because I have these resources now in my toolbox to be able to be like, I know this is temporary. I know this is my body telling me to slow down, telling me to rest, telling me I need to take my space, create my space so that I can come back into things, come back into balance. Contrast is necessary to come back into balance. So those are some of my favorite ones. One of the ones I use when I'm doing Reiki is I flow through life on the waves of nurturing waters. I ride in peace with myself and the love that surrounds me. And again, when I have enough of these going in my head, it's hard to stay in that funk of like all of the other noise that wants to
Yeah.
get in there. And again, it's all just about creating space, giving yourself space in your mind and your soul to be able to say, wait a second, that's not true. That's a false reality. That's a false version of something I'm creating in my head. And as far as like the Leanna now versus then, it's the contrast. Because contrast is 100% necessary. You can't be aware of something if you don't have something to compare it to, right? Like there's no joy without sadness. Like think of Inside Out, right? Like I mean everything is connected. And again, like to your point earlier, Maria, like the universe isn't sending us bad stuff. It's sending us lessons. It's sending us direction. It's sending us breaks built, you know what I mean? Like it's sending us what we need regardless of whether or not we're in the space to accept it. And so the first thing is about acceptance and saying like, okay, here's where I am right now. This is my energy level. This is my circumstance. This is my whatever. What do I want to emit while doing this? And how can I bring love to this? And just giving ourselves literal space. It feels so foreign at first. When I first started meditating, my husband would scream, like, you're just hiding in there. You're not even doing anything. And then, of course, I'm meditating and like it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything because I feel like I'm still just doing the mental loop. And I'm like, he's probably right. I'm probably not even doing this right. I'm not even whatever. But I just kept it just everything in me was like, you have to keep doing it. You just have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And the more that I did it, the more that I put those other words in my head versus the you're not enough, you're screwing this all up, or everything is terrible, or whatever, the more that those things started showing up for me, and things, even hard things, got easier. Like, again, like, 5 years ago, if I had gone through what I went through this last couple of days, I would have been a freaking puddle on the floor. Like, go away, stop talking to me. I can't do anything, And now it's okay, all of this is temporary. Here's where we are. What do I need to do to support myself best in this situation? And how do I move through it, knowing that this too shall pass and everything is going to be okay.
Thank you, Liana. Thank you. I've been writing so much stuff here, but for listeners are there, if there's a takeaway, I'll tell you what I'm taking with me is, yes, literal space. And that, not waiting for that forced pause. You can pause now to support your wellness, your overall well-being. And the other word that I take with me is acceptance. Acceptance.
Yes.
And your control and ability to make any changes, changing that sense of urgency, or creating again that space in your schedule, design and schedule that supports time for you. And in that process, figuring out who you are, that person that goes with you to everything else you do, but is the essence or the values, the core values that align with the person you want to be. Liana, thank you so much for chatting with us today. What a human and relatable episode. I'm excited to share it with all our Wellness Rebranded movement and community. If you love this episode, please share it, leave a review, ask your friends to come listen to it. Follow us on Instagram at Wellness Rebranded. And Liana, if people want to connect with you, is there an email or Instagram account or Facebook that you want to share?
So right now I have a TikTok page. I have Laughing with Liana. It's Liana. I have an Instagram. I think it's also Laughing with Liana. And I guess if anyone wants to email me, it's Learning with Liana. Just again, Liana @gmail. And I'm really an open book. I'm in the Annapolis area in Maryland, and definitely willing to share other resources and communities that I have found to be really supportive of this journey, and spaces where I've really been able to open up into myself and be vulnerable in community. That's been really a big piece of it. And your studio is a huge place for being vulnerable in community. I mean, what a beautiful space you've created there with the emotional fitness studio. It's just wonderful.
Oh, thank you. And it was a pleasure to meet you. Thank you again for being with us, and for all of you. Until next time. Thank you for listening. If you want to connect with me outside of this podcast, you can find me on Instagram at coaching_therapist.
I'm Elizabeth. You can find me at Elizabeth Harris Nutrition, or in my Facebook group, Health and Healing with Intuitive Eating.
And I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Tara De Leon Fitness. Guys, if you loved this episode or any of our other episodes, we would love it if you would leave us a review on Apple Podcast. It really, really helps us get the non-diet word out to the rest of the world. So please leave us a review.
Yes, thank you.